welcome into another edition of Off the Leash. I'm Ashley Holder. That's Leah Doherty, OBR's Fred Greetham, and the one and only Mark Schwab in the building. We got some big sports news today, but first, before we get to that, everyone, I just want to say, because this is going to be our last episode before Leah Doherty's birthday.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Let's say happy birthday to Leah.
Thanks, guys. The big 2-9 on Saturday.
21.
I wish, yeah.
21.
Going to the lake
guys,
house
say happy
with the
birthday.
fam.
Happy birthday,
Thank
Leah
you.
Doherty.
Goodness. All right. Well,
And many more.
and many
you.
more. Well, we got to shout out our girl. So,
Thank you.
big news out today. Brendan Sorsby was denied entry to the NFL's supplemental draft, and he is going to be out right now, it sounds like, for the next year, and he'll be eligible for the 2027 draft. Just last episode, we were talking about would the Browns take him? Would they not take him? Where would he fall? It looks like he's falling nowhere but down.
This is, to me, this just reads as the league finding a way to suspend him for a year. This is what it is? No? Okay, go sit down. We're not, get your life in order. And it sounds like he's trying to get the help. We did the true false last week with him. Would he be a top 3-round pick in the supplemental draft? I said, I don't think he would be. I wouldn't be surprised if he went undrafted. I think there's protection here for everybody. I think there's protection here for Sorsby. It gives him more time to show he is past this thing, and he can certainly work out and do what he needs to do to show he can still play football. I think this is good for all involved, and I still don't think the Browns should go anywhere near him in the 2027 NFL draft.
I think it's kind of interesting the way this, because any team that would have drafted him this year, he wouldn't play. I mean, they've already made their plans, whatever it is, for this year. The draft wasn't going to be till late July when training camp started, and we all know how that is. The coaches are already working with, unless it's the Browns, are working with their starters at quarterback, and so it'd be like a redshirt year. So I don't know how that works now. Could he just become a free agent, or is it because of his eligibility class? Because he could have went to the draft last year. He decided not to, and that tells me that he wasn't getting the read that he was going to be a first-round pick. So that's why he went back to school and took the $5 million, and then all this comes out. So I think it's kind of a mess. I think they did the Browns a favor. From the only other thing would have been if the Dolphins or the Jets or the Cardinals, one of the teams that needed a quarterback, would have taken him, that would have made a bigger pool for the Browns potentially next year's draft. So
The Browns are clean of him. Texas Tech is clean of him. That means Leah Doherty is clean of him, which is very exciting. Looking online, it says the player hasn't been selected in the supplemental draft since 2019.
It's been a while since
I don't think I had realized that had been that long. Said potentially he could play in the CFL. He is ineligible to play collegiately under the NCAA rules. So it is interesting to see, if you just sit back for a year, work out, it's probably what you should do. I guess you could go play in the CFL or something.
That's if they'd want it.
But right, that's the thing too. And like we had talked about last week, this is the one thing that everyone universally agrees on. We're not touching that. We're not going anywhere near that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if everyone's like, I don't want to mess with that. That's a whole bunch of stuff.
His lawyers also have already came out and said that they're going to try, I don't know if the word is appeal the decision or whatnot, but they're already working to say, I can't remember the exact wording that they said, but something to the effect of they're not following some type of I can't get the legality of the word I'm looking for, but basically some type of right is not being followed for him, so they're already working on that. But I mean, when you look at it, it gives him some time to reflect, either as both a player and a person, of what he's going to do, considering he has this much time. But I think, like you guys said, it just shows that the NFL is run as a very tight ship, and they're we're not going to stand for it. And I really think that even if he was selected, he wasn't going to play, because I do believe that they were going to suspend him at the end of the day. So even if he would have came to the Browns or anywhere else he would have went, I don't think that we would have seen him play. I think they would have found a way to suspend him and said, hey, we're not just going to brush past it. But they say they made this decision because they did not have enough time to investigate exactly what happened at Indiana and during that time. So they're like, because of that, then you're not going to be able, to be in this draft, and you're not going to play at all. But do you guys think at this point it affects his draft stock going into that 2027 draft?
I think he can only help himself. right? I mean, if he stays clean of gambling for a year and has a really good workout, time has a way of making things look a little better. So I think it can only help him. I don't think it hurts him. I think they're fighting this thing with the supplemental draft. That's hilarious. I mean, there hasn't been. It's not like it's something that happens every year. You know, the NFL kind of goes out of their way to have one. They don't go out of their way to not have one. So I think proving the case that the league is, they have to make it sound like the league is not doing something that they normally would do when history tells us it's something they normally would not do. What do you got? Lee's got something.
Because his attorney, I found the statement from his attorney, that's Jeffrey Kessler. He said the NFL's decision to not hold a supplemental draft is a violation of the CBA and the law, and they're pursuing immediate action with the NFL Players Association. But it goes back to the point you were saying, like, it's up to the discretion of the NFL whether or not they have
He's
it.
not in the Players Association. I understand he would be, and he's trying to get maybe some to fight on their behalf. I don't know if they would do that. This is also, I kind of referenced that this is the NFL's way to suspend him for a year. The NFL does this where they will kind of acknowledge. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but Fred, with Jim Tressel, he had that big thing with the Buckeyes, and he had to leave college football, and he would have been suspended for 2 games. And the Colts signed him to some kind of goofy position where they made up a name and they gave him this job. And the league made him miss the first 2 games because that's what he would have got in college. And I also think even though Sorsby would have got only 2 games in college, the NFL said, there's no way we're going to let you only get away with that. So this is a way to kind of suspend him, but connect it to you would have faced discipline in college. There's just so much working against this kid. He needs to drop it. You start to look ridiculous. Just drop it, go away. We'll talk about you next spring.
Yeah, if you can play, there's going to be, it's like, bees to honey. If he can throw, he can play. It doesn't matter if he sits out this year. He's going to, he's going to have a pro workout day, and everybody will come and watch him, and they'll make up their mind. The Browns have really done well in the supplemental draft. Historically, they got Bernie Kosar that way. They got Josh Gordon that way, and they got Terrell Pryor that way. So I think it was because of that situation that was going on at Ohio State, And so, yeah, I didn't realize that they didn't have one. If somebody didn't request it, they could turn it down because I always, there's a guy that wants to be in it, so they have it. But it is interesting, and I agree. I mean, Isaiah Bond didn't get drafted because he had some off the field, and then the Browns signed him as an undrafted free agent. I don't know that path. If he must have to wait another year because he was going to play college this year or whatever.
You have to go through the process of nobody drafting you. So at that point, then nobody would draft him.
If he would have declared and nobody drafted him last year, then he could be a free agent.
Then he would be, yeah.
But he didn't declare. He still had eligibility. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with Mark is that let it, don't get into, if you want to have a future in the NFL, you don't want to get into a lawsuit with the NFL and start trying to fight the big empire because that will not look good all the way. I mean, you were going to play in college, you lost out. All this is because of your own doing,
It's hard to make him, like, if he were the sympathetic case where the, PR would be behind you, the court of public opinion, if you will, then you could maybe push this. Who is in his corner right now?
Yeah.
There's nobody saying, oh, yeah, how do you keep this guy out? Nobody's saying that. Nobody
it's
just
the one thing everyone agrees on, yeah.
Nobody wants him right now. Everyone wants him to get it together. He's got to just let it go.
I think the good thing for him is that we saw players during COVID, they decided to opt out, and it really didn't affect them when it came to the draft. Like Jamar Chase didn't play, Trey Lance didn't play, and I think when you see those type of guys, not saying he necessarily has to be on that caliber, but when you see that those guys didn't play and still did pretty well in the draft, I mean, you look at it and say, hey, maybe this really isn't going to be a very big deal for him if, again, just what he does with that time off necessarily. But, I mean, I kind of get the guy fighting it. I mean, why – he doesn't want to sit out. I mean, that's the whole point. He's fighting all this so he doesn't have, the guy wants to play football. Now, whether he's still on a team and actually physically playing is a whole other thing, but he wants to be associated with someone. He don't want to just be associated with, Brendan Sorsby.
The league's got to see this through. Like it's a Google, so it's kind of what you find on the internet, but it gives you an idea. The rate of relapse on gambling is not good. It's like 50 to 90%. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 2 years out. It is a hard thing to beat. I mean, he's just gone through this. I think the league wants some assurances that, okay, now it's at least a year separated. That's why I don't think the Browns, I have a hard time seeing anyone wanting to touch this kid because the rate of relapse is awful with that. And you're rooting for him. That doesn't mean you want him to
touch
fail.
him right now or period?
Period. I mean, I guess April's a long ways away, but I don't know why an NFL team would want this.
So the only reason why I disagree with you with that is I feel like there are there are men playing in the NFL that have done worse than that, and they're still playing. So I feel like I could see all teams still being open to this guy, and that's the only reason why. Because I
done
feel like
worse with gambling or with what?
I think they've done worse with different things.
Beating women, usually.
Beating women.
Yeah, the league doesn't care about that.
And things, exactly, and that's my point.
They care about this. They don't care about that.
I'm just like,
they put on
if
pink
you're okay
socks.
with that, then I don't see how this is like, whoa,
are you guys
this is not okay.
with Kenyon Butte?
Oh, yeah. Wait, Keyshawn Butte?
Is that what it is?
The guy from New England.
Patriots.
Yeah.
8,900, as I understand gambling. He was just under Sorsby. He got drafted in the 6th round. He played at LSU, and no suspension when he joined the NFL. So that's where I had heard the argument he wouldn't get any suspension because it was the precedent. I think Butte's played like 4 or 5 years now in the NFL. And he had so was 9,000 the limit? Or because this guy was like 8,900.
Wow. Well, I guess it is only 89. So
just
stay under that
where we cap
9,000. And
he got
that
drafted
is
in the 6th round, so
Yeah.
it wasn't the same. But it's like, okay, is this because he's a quarterback?
He had a very weird college career, too. Butte was considered, when he was like a freshman or a sophomore, underclass, he was thought of as like that Chase, Jefferson, Brian Thomas Jr., that type of prospect. And then his production just went, phew. So it was a weird prospect anyway. It included the sound effect. Thank you very much.
I love that.
Love this sound effect. All right, well, listen, we could be talking about this all day, and the funny thing is this is only going to continue a couple months from now, and then after that until we're talking about it again when we get ready for next year's draft and figuring out, what team he's going to be at. But conversation continues after the break with Mark Schwab's true-false question of the week.
Off the Leash continues. True, false question of the week. Here's what we're working off of, folks. It was early this week, I think it was yesterday. CBS Sports, one of the writers, Josh Edwards, put together a list of the teams that had the 10 best off seasons. Ranked them 1 to 10. The Cleveland Browns were ranked as having the number 1 best off season in the entire NFL of all the teams. True or false, the Cleveland Browns had the best offseason in the NFL?
Wow. That's overall, I'd say false. I think they had a great draft, but it's still to be determined. The offseason, I mean, you traded Myles Garrett. You got Jared Verse and some guys. The draft looks good, but your moves in free agency were basically you got Quincy Williams to replace Devin Bush, and you added a bunch of offensive linemen that is to be determined. So I think it's still to be determined, but I can't say it's sure shot the best in the NFL.
I could see the way I view this ranking is the Browns had the most problems to fix and are one of the worst teams.
That's true.
And they addressed their biggest needs. So
Yeah.
therefore it's they probably made the most moves and addressed their biggest problems because they have so many. So I don't know if I would say it's the best though, because it's kind of hard. How would you sum it up? Is it I'm trying to find a good way to explain it. Is this still going to put them in a position to be a successful and winning team? I don't know. You look at the Raiders and Fernando Mendoza. That could be a move that could change your team,
Flips
change
the
your
script
franchise,
for the organization,
change your
yeah.
franchise. And I'm not sure. While the Browns made more moves and addressed more needs, I'm not sure you can weight it the same as like going and getting potentially a franchise quarterback. So it's kind of hard for me to like rank the list of the Browns had more issues and they made more moves. But all in all, when you take a step back, like, is this going to make them a competitive team in the NFL? Like, we don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I don't know if I
you're
explained
right.
that well. Okay.
Because you can point to the Raiders and say, well, I'll make mine after. Go ahead, Ashley, and I'll follow up.
Oh, thanks so much.
Because I'm going to end up answering with my answer, and I'm going to let her go first.
I mean, I kind of agree. I'll say true.
True that they had the best offseason.
Yeah, I'll say true
right.
because for some of the reasons actually that was listed in the article with him. I mean, with the Browns rebuilding their offensive line, and like what Leah said, they tackled a lot of issues that they have while they are one of the worst teams in the NFL towards the bottom of the league. I mean, you do have to address those issues or you're not really going to go anywhere at that point. So I would say true for that. And also because I felt like they were able to get a player, we're not going to say just, as good as Myles Garrett because of what Myles Garrett has done, but Jared is younger than Myles. So, of course, he hasn't done everything he has. But I think you got one of the best players that you could have to almost swap that in that situation because they weren't going to be very good most likely with or without Myles. It was still going to pretty much be the same, on the same thing. They still
lost games with Myles.
And I think who they added in the draft was also very good, too, because I think those are guys who are going to come in and they're going to play. I think we're going to see Denzel Boston. I think we're going to see Casey Concepcion and Emmanuel and things like that. Like, I think, as we know, he likes to play those rookies, and I think for that point, and obviously the guys that they add, Spencer Fano and things like that, that we're going to see those guys. So I think for that point, I would say true, but yeah, I still think they're not going to be very good. But who knows? I mean, like you said, Fernando Mendoza, we have Deshaun Watson.
I mean, yeah, that's the same.
Might drop.
So I would say false.
2020 Deshaun Watson, okay.
For two reasons. One of them Leah kind of touched on. There isn't the move that says that's what turns the organization around. You can point to Mendoza. You can point to what the Titans did, who have Cam Ward, but they went out and they signed a bunch of offensive pieces and drafted Tate. And now you say, okay, here's how that offense goes to the next level. And I don't see that with the Browns. We're still talking about them being a bad team, and they still don't have a quarterback. And the other reason is I probably could have listened to this conversation before they traded Myles Garrett. They traded Myles Garrett for a guy who wasn't as good as Myles Garrett and probably a late first-round pick. And I don't want to turn this into a rehash of the Garrett trade, but all the national talking heads that keep talking about this, they're going to have to explain this to me like I'm five. Why is the guy who gets a ton of sacks, why should we replace him with a guy that gets some sacks and almost gets a lot of sacks? And we're supposed to say, hail the conquering hero, that's a great move. I could have listened to that before you got worse at one of the most important positions in football by trading the greatest defensive player in the history of the franchise and the greatest defensive player in the NFL. So I have to say false. I think they had a good offseason. I thought their offseason was better before they got rid of Myles Garrett.
I haven't studied all the teams. The Browns, and yeah, I'd say it's a top five. But the Rams, just getting Myles Garrett, Trent McDuffie, and a Pro Bowl safety. I mean,
all of that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good offseason.
I think the Rams had a better one than the Browns. The Rams got Myles Garrett. The Browns lost Myles Garrett. Rams win.
I'm sorry. I think it would be so crazy, like, if we see Myles Garrett if we see this guy in the NFC Championship and then also in the Super Bowl, it would just be freaking nuts.
It would be the same.
I'd be so excited for him.
It's the same script as when they got Aaron Donald there.
Yeah.
Right? It would be pretty much the same script.
And they're talking about Aaron Donald coming back, which would be absolutely insane.
There it was slightly different because Donald was already there. They didn't have the quarterback, so they went and got him in Stafford. And this is the case with Garrett didn't have the quarterback here, so they sent him to the place that had the quarterback, and you get to see him in the NFC Championship game.
They were only a couple pieces away from going right back to the Super Bowl and possibly winning. All right, we'll be right back. We're going to take a real quick break on Off the Leash. All right, our sound off question. This is where we want to hear from you guys, the fans, and what you guys think. Our question of the week. There were a couple of rumblings that the Browns were, fielding some calls and possibly trading Shedeur Sanders. So the question is, do you guys think that the Browns should trade Shedeur Sanders? Here's just a couple of them of what some people had to say. Someone said you spelled Deshaun Watson wrong. Someone said definitely no trade. You play Shedeur with all new offensive upgrades to see if he is the future quarterback. Someone said, sure, that would be one way to make sure he's a successful quarterback in the NFL. Get him out of here. Someone said, can you trade Jimmy and D. Haslam? I can't read that one, so we'll leave that one alone. That one either. Someone said trade him for an ace closing pitcher for the Indians, a.k.a. Guardians. Someone said no. Watson, yes. Get rid of Watson first. No one will take him. What's the point? He's a 5th-round pick. And so it seems like a lot of people are going everywhere with this. And I know we talk a lot about Shedeur, and we could talk about him for a long time. But, I mean, is that something that you guys think that the Browns would actually do and should actually maybe explore if they are fielding calls on him?
I mean, doesn't it depend on what the offer is?
Oh, everything
they'll trade anyone for the right offer, apparently.
Yes, correct. So, I mean, if somebody offered a second, I'd take it right now. If somebody offered a third, probably.
I don't know if I'm really
not.
sold on it, just because, I mean, Deshaun will be out of here in a year, regardless whether he plays well or not. So it's like, who is going to lead this franchise? And I'm just not really believing that, like, Arch Manning or, Moore or Sorsby, any of those guys are going to come up and then be the franchise quarterback now. I kind of feel like Shedeur does have a really good option here to be a franchise quarterback, and I think that just doesn't happen until Deshaun Watson leaves.
And Deshaun's always injured. Like, we don't even know if he played, if he's going to play a full season and be healthy either.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think you've went this whole off season with the same guys. You get right up here to the brink of it. Why wouldn't you go for it? Just because you're getting calls doesn't mean that you have to not listen. But I agree, it's got to be worth the squeeze, or you see what you have with them, because Watson's gone, and you're going to find out one way or another if Sanders is the guy. If not, you probably have a bad record, and you'll get a chance to draft somebody. But you can't count on the draft next year, because we know how it's happened these last 2 years.
I got a question for the guy.
I just want to say that someone said we should trade the Browns.
They did. They became the Ravens, and we got this excuse of the Browns. I want to know what the guy who wants them to trade for a closer for the Guard. Cade Smith leads the majors in saves.
You're going to get Mark on a whole rant
What
over
more
here.
do you need, bro? He had a bad night against the White Sox. Then a 6-out save. Back down, my man.
I got to find the comment so I can see who. Oh, Ron Thomas is who said that. Shout out
Come
to Ron
on,
Thomas.
Ronald.
We will not tolerate
What
Cade
is-
Smith slander.
I will not list exactly right.
Nope. Not in here.
Yeah, I mean, when you come down to it, I think like you guys said, it just really depends what you could get for it. You know what I mean? But I'm always, granted, I don't think that actually happens, but I am still curious to see what happens with Dylan Gabriel. If that's an option, if they get rid of him, or, but again, the question is, what do you get back for Dylan? But I also think that Dylan could possibly be a backup somewhere. I mean,
It depends on what they do with
Taylor
Taylor Green. If they like enough to keep him. If not, then you keep Gabriel as your third.
Right.
Yeah. Well, listen, only time will tell. Any last thoughts before we wrap things up, guys?
That's it.
All right, Leah Doherty, man, have a great birthday.
Thanks, y'all.
You'll
I'll
be a
back
year
next
older by
Tuesday.
the time that we talk.
Hopefully,
next time.
so much wiser by the
So
next
much
time you see me.
wiser.
And less stuffy and congested as well. Hopefully,
and so much cooler. Our
I hope
sourdough.
so. Yeah.
You're
I'll have
already
some bread.
cool. You'll just get any
Thanks.
cooler. All right, well, guys, that wraps it up here for Off the Leash for Ashley Holder, the new birthday girl coming up, Leah Doherty, and OVR's Fred Greetham and Mark Schwab. This is Off the Leash. We'll catch you next week. Make sure you check out this podcast wherever you get your podcasts at.